Okay, Geometry, Chapter 4, Section 3, Numbers 5 and 7. Determining the length of the legs of each 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, so again, we're looking at triangles that are 45 by 45 by 90, right? So I want to look at my triangle, and like I said, if I can determine that my triangle has two 45-degree angles and a 90-degree angle, then I can use my equation C equals a square root of 2. So I'm going to look at the legs. So number 5 on my equation, or on my skills practice. Okay, this is number 5 on your skills practice. We're going to say that we have A and A and C. Well, the length of A is on your triangle. I'm sorry. The length of C on your triangle is going to be 16. Right? So problem 5 says that your hypotenuse is 16 centimeters. So let's take a look at how we solve this. Well, I start out with my equation, C equals A squared. And I have to plug 16 in for C. Okay, so now what I have to do is I got to get my variable by myself, right? It's like we always do in algebra and everything else. I'm going to take and I need to isolate my variable. And so what I'm looking for is I'm trying to find the length of A. So to do that, I have to remove the square root of 2. So I'm going to divide the square root of 2 out. Right, and then that cancels. Well, now we know that what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I have to divide 16 by the square root of 2. But now we have to go back and remember that I can't have a square root on the bottom. I can't have a square root in my denominator position. So in order to get rid of that square root, I have to go to my form of 1. So I'm going to write my equation again. I'm going to say 16 over square root of 2. And that's what A equals. But because I can't have this square root here on the bottom, I have to do my form of 1. So I multiply by the square root of 2 over square root of 2, my form of 1. And so I'm going to continue that process. So this ends up equaling 16 square root of 2 over, and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4. So I'm going to simplify this again, and now I have 16 times the square root of 2 over, now remember, square root of 4 I can have a perfect square because 2 times 2 is 4, right? So then square root of 4 is going to be 2. So that gives me the 16 square root of 2 over 2. But I have one last step, and that's to complete my simplification, right? Complete simplifying, because 2 goes into 16. So 2 goes into 2 once and goes into 16 8 times, leaving me with a final answer of 8 times square root of 2. So then A is going to equal 8 square root of 2. And that would be the length of that side. So let's so pause and take a look and see if you can understand that. Okay, so now let's take a look at our next problem. Let's take a look at problem number, let's see if I can. All right, let's take a look at problem number 7. Again, 4.3 in your skills practice. This is problem 7. And I have A, and I have A, right? Typically this might be B, but because it's the same length, we're going to say A twice. And then I have my hypotenuse C. And so the question calls for hypotenuse C the length of it is going to be 6 square root of 2, correct? So that's what the problem calls for, 6 square root of 2. Well, I'm just going to stay with the same formula. I'm going to say, okay, well, C equals 6. Whoops, I'm sorry. Let me get rid of that. Go back. Okay, so once again, if C equals a 6 square root of 2, and I'm using my formula, C equals A square root of 2, then I'm going to plug 6 square root of 2 into C, and it's going to equal A squared. Well, again, I want to get A by itself, so I have to isolate my variable. And to do that, I need to divide out by the square root of 2. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. And this one's a little bit more simple because since I have, so what I'm, okay, let's look at this. Now what I'm left with is that A equals 6 square root of 2 over square root of 2. Well, I would possibly have to do my form of 1 if I needed to get rid of this, but because the square root of 2 here and the square root of 2 here cancels, that's as far as I need to go. So then A equals 6. So in my equation then, or in my triangle, A is going to equal 6. And that completes number 7 on Skills Practice 4.3 of your Carnegie. Any more? Try now to do number 8, and if you have any more questions, let me know in class.